she wasn't going very fast apparently, but all of a sudden this thing's in front of her. She hits it. She stops, and her friend Teresa said that it dented the fender a little bit. So, like it hit something that had a bone in it. And she wasn't driving a very big car. It's one of those little cheap things. It says she got out of the car, which most people wouldn't do. She thought that she had a blowout. She said, "No, I've got good tires on here. I don't have a blowout." And got to look at it, and she smelled this really bad odor again, and looked up, and here's this thing looking at her. And she said, "Who are you? What do you want?" And he just flew up and circled around and flew away. And she got back in her car and left.
She is brave.
Yeah, she was. She's a tough gal. I wouldn't fight her. She's a sweetheart, but she's a tough gal. And there was another time that we may not have even talked about. She and her friend, I don't know if it was this same lady, Teresa, had a snow cone little old thing, right? Down somewhere south of here, I believe. Excuse me. And said about, they were in bed, and it's maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and somebody knocks on the door. She said, "Who the heck would want a snow cone this time of night?" So she goes, I guess, opens a window or something and looks out, and here's this something standing out there. She said it looked kind of like it had a floppy hat on, but you really couldn't tell, and raggedy coat on. And it was weird. I'm not sure it wasn't the same creature. And why it's pursuing her, I don't know, or if it is. If it's three different occasions, three different beings, or if it's the same one following her around. This truck driver, that the first time she hit the thing, knocked it over in the ditch, and left a trail in the ditch in the grass, dented her fender, bumped her head, and this trucker stops at the same time, and he gets out, lady, get back in your car. Those things aren't human. Said, I see him out here this time of night. And I'm thinking, well, how many times has this guy seen one at 4 o'clock in the morning here in Crosbyton? It's the same one, or is it different ones? And you're going down 651 about, 3 miles maybe. There was a guy down there that lived in a rock house. It's way out in the farm country right next to the ranch land. And I never talked to him. I don't even know who it is, but these ladies said he saw the same thing. I think at the same time this lady hit it, he saw maybe over in his yard or driving or something. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people have seen one here in Crosbyton.
That is scary. Have you ever thought of getting up around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and check it out and make a little drive to see if you run across something? I wouldn't have the courage myself. I'll be honest with you.
I really should, and I get my buddy there, the cowboy with a big gun on his hip, and yeah, that'd be it. Well, I'm going to start promoting my Project 651 here pretty soon, and I'm just going to catalog all these wild, weird, strange things that have happened along 651 in a 60-mile area, and we've already had, I've just mentioned it, and we've already had 3 people drive the road at night just so they could see if they saw something. So I'm going to have to do that. When I get the thing ready to announce and launch, I'm going to have to go out there and spend several nights, just 4 o'clock in the morning, drive up and down 651 to see if I see anything. But I never see anything. I was out in our canyons out here for thousands of hours looking for fossils, and I never saw a rattlesnake. And then one day I came out to the edge of a cliff and stepped on one, jumped back, and not long after that, I was out in the canyon with one of the 3-toed horse beds out there with one of the boys I was raising, my son Brian. And I was going along lecturing him. Now, watch your eyes, watch the ground, watch what you're doing. Boom! Stepped right in the middle of us, coiled up rattlesnake. And I literally jumped 2 feet in the air like a bird. And then another time I was down at my brother's house. Down in the canyons, I was about 20 feet down in the draw. There's a waterfall there that dried up wintertime. February, there's no rattlesnakes out in February. That's what I always thought. So I look over, and here's out the bottom of the draw, there's a buffalo bone. I go, well, I'll collect that. reached over. Here's like 24 rattlesnakes there looking at me, and a bunch of juveniles. So I got a big stick and I killed a bunch of them. And they went back in there. I guess they had a hole there somewhere in the sandstone. And I looked down. Here's a little one striking my boot. So, all to say, I don't know how many years I was out in the canyon till I ever saw one coyote. And there are coyotes everywhere out here. I've only seen one armadillo in all the thousands of hours I spent in our canyons. I've only stirred up one armadillo. I've never seen a badger, but I've seen their holes all over the place. I've seen one golden eagle, and on a nest, and that's after tens of thousands of hours. So, how many times would you have to drive a road 651?
20
to
years,
see something like this.
20 years, maybe. But you just proved a point there. You know that, Joe? That these people, you just proved a point. These people go out looking for pterodactyls, or they're looking for Bigfoot, or Thunderbird, or whatever these creatures are. So they go out like once a month or twice a month, and then they get all disheartened, because they don't find anything. Well, you know what? Look at how many hours you did before you even ran into snakes. Now, I will say this. Years and years ago, when I was really heavy in photography, going to Spokane, Washington, going through the desert, I saw this beautiful remains of a windmill and it remains of an old home, maybe 1860s, 1870s, old farm home. Right. And I pulled off the side of the road and I had to go down the bank. I was so engrossed in wanting to get this picture, I didn't even look on the ground. So when I was running down the bank, I ran into like what you mentioned, but these were full-size rattlesnakes, and there was like 10, 15 of them, and I was right in the middle of them, and I didn't have boots on. And I tell you what, I panicked like you wouldn't believe, and I thank God I never got bit. I mean, I was lucky, but after that, I got really smart. I wore, biker boots that were almost up to my knees. Leather and all that stuff. And just because anytime I went out, any place like that. But I remember my kids. We were going up in Oregon, looking for old in the deserts out there, going between Oregon and California, for old farms to take pictures. And I'm again concentrating on taking pictures. Here's my two sons, taking a stick in all these holes and sticking them down the holes. And when I noticed they did that, I said, "Hey, you know what's there?" And right when I said that, a rattlesnake came running, jumping out or slithering out. They ran really quick back into the vehicle and closed the doors. They wouldn't, the rest of the trip, that's where they stayed. Unless we were at the motel or at a McDonald's or some place like that, they would not get out because it scared them. Hey, you got to be smart when you go out.
Here's another thing. And stupid me, I was trying to be careful, and I was out in the Triassic redbeds out here looking for giant crocodile bones, teeth, giant horny toad looking things, and giant salamanders and all that stuff. And there's a ledge of rock there. And I'm sort of precarious. I'm walking along. I'm putting my hand down on the rock ledge to steady myself. And there's this really beautiful little purple salamander skull about 8 inches across, which is a juvenile, beautiful little thing. And I had put my hand down within about a foot of a baby rattlesnake. Now, that could have been bad because I was way out in the boondocks out there. I was quite a ways from my vehicle. I was several miles from town, and so I try to be very careful and not foolish. But there's anytime you're looking for something like these cryptid animals, I think one of the most important things to consider is the season. When did someone see this, and can you get a pattern? Is it now this lady's seen this thing or hit it twice during cotton stripping season. We're right now in the middle of stripping cotton, and that's the same thing last year when she hit this thing with a car. And the first time she hit it, it was ginning season, and she was going out at the gym to take her husband something to eat. So that says that there's something about this time of year, at least for that. That's a small statistic there, but that's probably the best time to look is right now, because that's when this thing's been encountered and actually struck a vehicle. These two guys over in Sundown, or these four boys, I guess it was, my friend Max McNabb interviewed one of the guys who's now like in his 70s, I guess. They must have been out about this time of year, maybe deer season or turkeys, something, and they saw this thing jumped off the fence, something whitish looking, and then came after them. That's when they got in their pickup and drove back into Sundown as fast as that thing would run, with this thing flying along behind them at 80 or 90 miles an hour, clawing at the back gate, right, of the pickup. And then cop gets after them. They go flying into Sundown, turn off, and the cop keeps chasing the beam. So I suspect that might have been about this time of the year. So, that's any research project, you got to start finding, you got to make a list of what do we know, the shape, the smells, time of night, time of year, all those things will finally, they'll save you, like guys that go to Papua New Guinea and they go over there, they don't see anything. Well, they probably went at the wrong season. Those things weren't out, or they migrated. Animals migrate, or they hibernate. So he might be right there. You just don't see him because he isn't out. And but if you're out there all the time, like these farmers, my brother's plowed a lot of fields and been out in the ranch a lot, and he's one of the only people I know who've ever seen a chupacabra, because he's out there in the field with him. But he was out there for days. So, there again, your chances are improved if you got more time in the field or in the lab. And that's the nature of research. You can't get discouraged. Otherwise, you're just sitting watching TV.
Yeah, that is true. What is the creepiest, cryptic creature you've ever run across living?
Myself personally?
Yes, sir.
Like I say, I lived here most of my life. Well, I grew up out here. We never saw one deer out in the country, and now you see them. But man, it's a long time. I never saw a deer when I was out looking around. So, the creepiest thing I've seen is an insect called a vinegaroon. And it's a giant, looks like a big bug with pinchers on him. It's about 3 inches long. They're black, and they put out a smell that's like vinegar.
Oh, wow.
And boy, during the summertime when those things come out, they're out, I just get this really bad feeling. If I walk into someone's house, there's a porch light on, I keep thinking things will fall down my neck. And then what am I going to do? I'll go berserk. But, I don't know. That's, like I say, these things are out there. The Bigfoot's out there. Mothman is out there. And we're starting to have reports now down south of here, probably 6-7 hours south of here, of a small T-Rex running around. There's been about 5 or 6 sightings that we know of.
Okay, now, I need you to hold that till we come back, because we got to go for break with the news and all that stuff for the radio stations. So if you want to get a cup of Java, a cup of tea, we'll be back in 3.5 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark, and we'll be back.
Scintillas in the stream,